Since this was on about forgiveness, of course I'm always the man with all the stories, but one of them was that, to make a long story short, I met a man when I was in jail about some years ago, and he had a different belief, and his was into satanic practices. And he and I were in the same cell together, so neither one of us could escape each other. But he was upset with his sons. They were supposed to get him out of jail. They were supposed to bail him out that day. Well, they came and went, and came the next day, and I remember getting up, and he's laying on his bunk, just laying there with his eyes closed, hands folded, and he says, "I'm praying to Lucifer to get on my boys for not getting me out of jail." And so I looked at him, and I'm like, that's a morbid thing to say, I'm thinking that. And so I said, "Well, you could just at least forgive them." His eyes popped open, and he looked up at me, and he goes, "Forgiveness is weak." And that comment about blew me over. I said, forgiveness is the strongest thing in the world. And, with that said, it's always hard to go up to someone and say, "Can you please forgive me?" And so I always thought that if I just stay on the person's good side, I won't ever have to forgive. I learned my lesson that here just a few weeks ago. What happened was I got into my teacher mood, and someone took offense at it when I had no intention of offending anybody, and I had 2 apologies to make to 2 different families because they thought I was raking them over the coals for something that they did that they didn't know what they did, and I thought I was doing that really kindly, but they still took an offense at it, so I had some forgiveness to do, and it's before the forgiveness, it's like it really ruins your whole day when you found out that someone took an offense to something that you had said when it was unintentional. But when it's over with, it's like a big sigh. So when the Messiah says, how many times, or when the disciple said, "How many times should I forgive my neighbor?" Should I forgive him 7 times? No, 70 times 7. And the additional to that was 70 times 7 times a day. I mean, it wasn't that, okay, it's been about 10 years now and I forgive you 490 times. No, it's 490 times a day. And that's how strong forgiveness is. I just wanted to put that out.
I think more of a statement than it is experience, but I feel like that forgiveness to me is probably the one and only most important thing. Maybe there's others, love and forgiveness are kind of the same, but it's like Jesus or what is it? Yeah, you tell me the names. I don't know. I'm a Jesus speaker. Sure. And that was the reason he came for forgiveness and for redemption and restoration. And I think we've really got to get on to what does that mean? Sometimes it's harder for us to forgive, or for me personally to forgive than to receive forgiveness. and, but at the same time, I look around and I see the world that I'm living in captivity to it's like unforgiveness, but it's more than just personal things. It's like debt, we've got to forgive debt, not hold people into bondage to debt, and it seems like that's kind of where we are in our country in a lot of ways, and financially, and in our system, it's like we're holding people in bondage, and that's, of course, that's what I think the Jubilee and all that's all about, is like setting people free, setting our brothers free, and setting folks free from debt, and then just having that redeeming thing. And I think for me, it's redeeming when I can set somebody free, and then I can be set free at the same time, and relate to the world that way. And that's where my hope is, that there can be redemption, a whole lot more, and forgiveness.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Well, I saw a hand back there. Is he Phil, you're with us? Oh.
Next.
You're next.
I actually have two things I want to share. And I don't know about you guys, but I know a lot of times we can have things that happen in our lives, and we can be hurt by some of the things somebody says or does. And you don't even always know if they even know for sure that they hurt you or not. Sometimes you never know. And I think one of the biggest things for me is when things happen, you don't always have the ability to be able to make things right with them. Maybe they don't come and ask for your forgiveness. And maybe you don't feel prompted to make an issue of it or go out and say, hey, you've offended me. That doesn't necessarily bring very good luck either. But I found that for me, when I can picture that person in my mind and just send God's love to them, and when I can fully and openly, wholeheartedly send my love to that person without any restraint, then I know that I've forgiven the hurt, regardless of whether they knew about it or didn't, whether they were sorry for it or even had any clue. And it just opens up, I believe that it opens up our pathway from our Heavenly Father, because if we're not giving love, then we're like a dam holding it up, and we truly are damned. Because we're blocking that flow, and we're restricting it, and like all these things that we've been learning about how energy moves, and how the life is in movement, and water, when it's stagnant, it starts to die. And what are we? But mostly, we're made of water, and it's not just the physical water; it's the spiritual aspect of water. And when we're open and when we're allowing that love to flow, we're like that stream of beauty that flows through, and it can cleanse and heal, and we can be as angels on the earth. And it was actually in a moment of contemplating this that I was thinking one day about how we are blessed by angels all around. And I know that we have heavenly angels that guard us and protect us and lead us. But there's also earthly angels, as I like to call them, the people in our lives that bring messages to us and sometimes comfort us in ways that we so need, and yet many times we don't even recognize that they're the angels that God sends. And in my own life, I've had people all the time that have been angels, that have brought a message to me that I was in prayer over, and they said something that was just what I knew was from the Lord, and they may not have even had any clue why they said what they did to me, but it was what answered the plea of my heart. And I believe that when we are open and we allow that flow of love to move through us, that not only that, but we can be the angels to others around us. And I was in prayer over this, and one day, and these words started coming to my mind with a melody. And most of you know that I enjoy singing and playing the piano, and I've always wanted to write music, but never felt like I was good enough to do it. And there's so many of you who are so talented with music and everything. Oh, you want, of course, you want the microphone too. Anyway, and I felt really strongly that that these words needed to be put down on paper. That I sing little ditties to my children and make up songs all the time, and they think it's fun and have fun with it. But I've never actually written anything down, and I was just praying about it, and I thought, could I really do that? And it was as though, and I can't say that I heard words, but I felt the feeling of the message that the Father sent me was just open up and let me flow through you. I thought, well, of course, it wouldn't be me, it would be Him speaking through me. And so I just said, use me. Let me write what you want me to write. And I went to the piano and started jotting down notes, and it was over the course of actually several weeks of writing it down. And I now have a song, and it's called Messages from Angels. And I'll be playing it tonight for the talent show. I was going to share a little about it tonight, but I thought it was very apropos with your, that you're talking about forgiveness and then talking about how we know that the Father is with us. And for me, I just felt such a knowing that He was working through me, and it was just such a special spiritual thing for me that meant a lot. And so, anyway, I look forward to being able to share it with you tonight.
We're looking forward to that. Do you want to say something?
Do you want to say it? No? Okay.
It just builds on what she said and also what our dear brother here, he said. I was speaking with Phyllis. She had to leave this morning because she's attending another feast up at Cedar Creek in Washington. But she shared with me how special she felt here because of the love that everyone showed to her. And she said, it's really not other people's fault, but I didn't feel that before when I was here. But I was not ready to receive their love. But now I was. And she said, I just cannot tell you, because she said, I have lived in such fear of rejection. And she's comes by it right because of the things that's happened in her family. And the fear of rejection, and she felt everything but rejection from each one of you here. And I want to tell you that the teens in this group and the 20s, all of you are such an encouragement to us older ones. Because you're just right there for us all the time. And I just wanted to share that you definitely were little angels to Phyllis, and you are to me. And when Dave said what he did, it's just opened that gate of thinking, oh Father, we are so thankful. Remember children remember the very last words of that film, that water film was, what was the most important thing that changed the water? Love and gratitude. And as you're thankful for everything that you have, everything that you are, and have that love and show it, there's so many ways we can show love. And I'm so thankful to each one here that has shown it to me and to our family, and just to each other. And that's the first, children, I want to tell you something. That's the first remark that people that come into our midst that haven't been here before, is they show such love one to the other. We don't hear arguing, fighting, bickering, this kind of thing. And children, that is a real necessary thing to live in this world, because remember what Christ said, my peace I give unto you, not as the world gives, give I unto you. And when we love one another, the next step is that we have peace. And I want to thank you in Phyllis's behalf, because it meant the world to her and to me.
I don't know if you could see my heart beating, but the Spirit wants me to share. I had some bad things happen to me when I was a child. And I wanted to forgive my mother for not protecting me. So I talked to her about it a few times. She just made excuses. And I was doing a paper in school once, and I had her help me with it because it was on this subject. And she opened up to me and actually apologized. And I was able to forgive her for not protecting me and get close to her. And I hope someday I can forgive without having to have an apology. And that's my goal.
Anybody else? No, for sure. We had the other subject, which was besides forgiveness, which I thought would be good to share if anybody had a time when Yahweh was real close to them and how he made it known to them.
Man, it'd take all night, dear.
Well, we have
Every single day we feel.
This is going to sound a little nutty, but it's true. I was born and raised in Southern California, in Beach City and so on, and our family was extremely close. And when we were getting older, we started doing a lot of camping together. And I was just absolutely astonished when I saw huge fields of green grass and trees and so on. And at that time, I knew there was something with myself connected with creation. And many years later, I was up in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. I think Golden or something, and I was in this large parking lot. There were no leaves on the trees, and I was just sitting, just kind of enjoying the creation. And there was a huge flock of birds up in the air. And I just love creation like you wouldn't believe. And I would just kind of be pondering, and I'd look off to another part of the sky, and a bird would go fly there and just start right where I was looking. Come on, and I'd look somewhere else, but it would kept going. So I was by this large tree, and so I said, oh, okay, yeah, what's going on here? I said, I want all these birds to come down and land on this tree. And all these birds came down. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of them. Just chirping like crazy. And I was just, dumbfounded. And I said, okay, one more test. I wanted half of them to get up and fly west and the other half to fly east. And that's what they did. So today when I talk about, and I really believe about the creation and my personal, at least not necessarily individual ability, but my belief and view that the laws of creation, that the laws of the kingdom is part of the creation. It's been there, always has been, it's never diminished. How I really believe in the kingdom so much, but I still feel far away from it. But I look really forward to the new heavens and, well, not new heavens, clean waters, clean oceans, clean air, clean soil, rebuilt soil. globally. And the laws are there, it's going to happen, and I'm just really looking for it and seeing it. It's a weird story, but it's true.
A number of years ago in Seattle, after I was in ministry for a while, I was 11 years on a pastoral staff, and I became very discouraged in ministry because I understood, been to Bible college and master's work and all that, understood the requirements for a person who's in eldership. And I was incapable of the discharge of those requirements as an elder because of the spiritual warfare that I was in and actually wanting to kill people. You know, of course I came out of the world, and so that was part of the demeanor of a person living in the world, you know, the resentment, hatred, types of things. And so I couldn't work my way through this issue that I was dealing with. And every day for me, I would wake up and I was in warfare. It was like Navy SEAL. I was having to put black on my cheeks, sharpen my combat knife. I knew people were going to die today because of this stuff that was going on. And I'm giving you a picture of the spiritual arena, you know, the terrible demonic warfare. And I want to relate this to this situation like Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve could not correct their problem of sin by covering themselves, self-effort. And so God provided the sacrifice. We know the story. And I found myself much in that same kind of a situation where I couldn't correct the problem that was in me, and every day having to face this. And so the adrenal levels were up, and I was in agony and pain every day. And just to tell you sometimes how God comes to our rescue to change your whole, so to speak, your flight attitude and get you on the right track. And just out of the clear blue, one morning I woke up and there was like angelic angels singing. It was like a choir. Not one day, but day after day after. This went on for several weeks. And so in the morning you could wake up like I typically was with a sad face this way, and all of a sudden there's these angelic angels on Jacob's ladder riding up and down. They're messengers to help us in our plight sometimes where we can't get ourselves up. You know, every man needs to carry his borrows, his own load. But sometimes another brother needs to get alongside and lift him up. We talk about friends that will do that, help you shoulder that load. You can't carry that by yourself. Well, God just sent angelic hosts, and so I wake up in the mornings, and you cannot be morose, you cannot be negative, you can't be in a combat mood, when all of a sudden you're hearing just these angelic choirs singing, just joyful melodies, and just went on day after day after day after day. I've never experienced anything quite like it. So sometimes when we're at man's extremity, it's God's opportunity for him to do something that we cannot do for ourselves. We can't get ourselves up, you know. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Sometimes it's almost impossible. Even though you know the principles, you know the laws of God by which you should operate, you know the routines, but you can't muster the strength to get yourself up out of that. And when those demons are on you continually, day after day after day after day, sometimes it takes an absolute miracle of God to change the demeanor. And God changed that. And I haven't had those kind of visitations since, but that was a time when it went on for some time, you know, day after day after day after day, just a beautiful experience in the things of God. To deliver me from my own plight. And then, of course, he worked on the areas of bitterness and resentment and those other things separately. And then last, I'd like to just give you something. This isn't something from me, but it's a famous, I grew up in Arizona, famous restaurant. It's been there for 60 years. Some of you have probably been to Phoenix. It's Bill Johnson's Big Apple. And they're by the stockyards there and down out by the university. But this is from Bill Johnson. And it's called The Value of a Smile. I'd just like to leave you with this because we were talking about this. It's quite apropos. The value of a smile. It costs nothing, but creates much. It enriches those who receive without impoverishing those who give. It happens in a flash, and the memory of it sometimes lasts forever. None are so rich that can get along without it, and none are so poor, but are richer for its benefits. It creates happiness in the home, fosters goodwill in the business, and is the countersign of friends. It is rest to the weary, daylight to the discouraged, sunshine to the sad, and nature's best antidote for trouble. Remember, we're talking about a smile. Yet it cannot be bought, begged, borrowed, or stolen, for it is something, this last phrase is really the point, for it is something that is no earthly good to anybody till it's given away. Right? It's of no earthly good till it's given away. And so that's Bill Johnson's The Value of a Smile. So I hope that edifies you, gives you a little period at the end of the sentence on the smile thing.
A couple of years ago, I was quite disgusted at the neighbor of John's. He was a blasphemous man. I don't think I've seen him on word. He'd run down John in front of the kids, tell him how bad a father he was, what a coward he was. At the same time, while he was leaving his light bill to be paid by John, and I started praying, God, move Chad, get him out of there. I don't care how you do it, just move him out of there. Next thing I knew, John moved out here. He lost the use of his land, and so he was supposed to raise cows without feed unless you wanted to buy it. You couldn't buy organic feed that much in that area, and he had the farm actually to the point of where it could have been certified organic. And I was kind of disgusted at God at the time, but I realized that after John actually moved out here, and the conditions the way they were, he had control over his kids again more than what he had before. Chad was, I don't care what Chad does now, he's out of the picture as far as I'm concerned. But I can see where it was a blessing for John to move out here instead. He does not have the problems that he had back there and the contention. He's busy, he has his problems, but they're not the same. And he's with the kids and he can work with them now. I really appreciate what God did, even though I was pretty disgusted at him for a while. But I'm sure God knew it.
I guess that's the case of our, Ellie sometimes answers the prayer in a way that, in a different way than you expect, which all of us might have experienced that. Okay, well, Father, we pray for this time of feast that we can truly know and understand your forgiveness and how to forgive others and to love and unity with the brethren, love one another, and to let your spirit, the Spirit of Christ, overcome the works of the flesh, because we want your life and your eternal life, life everlasting. So, and we pray for the food and the meals and the blessing that all those that are serving and helping one another. In a wonderful name.